James Gunn's Superman reboot might not just save the DC universe, it might also challenge the very throne the MCU has sat on for over a decade. With early box office projections rolling in, a record-breaking marketing machine in full swing, and the future of superhero cinema hanging in the balance, Superman is no longer just a movie, it's a billion-dollar test. And the result could shake the entire industry. Let's start with the basics. Superman hits theaters on the 11th of July, 2025. It's not just DC's first new movie under the Gunn Safran era, it's the cornerstone of a completely reimagined universe. For years, DC's cinematic slate has struggled to find consistent footing. Black Adam underperformed, The Flash flopped, and Shazam 2 never took off. Now, with James Gunn at the helm, DC is going all in on a new tone, a new actor, David Corenswet, and a new mission.
I'm not messing around, I'm doing important stuff.
Rebuild from the ground up with a Superman that feels heroic again. And here's the twist. This Superman isn't being sold as a gritty savior or a reluctant symbol. He's being rebranded as relatable, hopeful, and family-friendly. And it's working. Superman isn't just being promoted. It's being engineered to be a cultural moment, and Warner Brothers knows it can't afford to play it safe. With a $225 million production budget and an estimated $200 million in marketing spend, this is a full-scale blitz that rivals Marvel's Endgame campaign in intensity, and possibly even reach. Unlike past DC releases that lean too heavily on edgy trailers or last-minute viral pushes, Superman is doing something very different. It's not just targeting comic book fans or nostalgic moviegoers. It's targeting everyone, kids, families, gamers, Gen Z boomers, even the people who gave up on superhero movies altogether. According to insider reports and breakdowns from AIPT Comics, this campaign is built around emotional clarity and brand familiarity. And they're using platforms like Fortnite, Roblox, and TikTok influencer tie-ins to reach younger audiences where they live. But it's not just digital. The physical rollout is old-school Hollywood scale. Global billboard domination, theatrical standees, retail brand integrations with everything from cereal to sneakers. Even toy leaks are starting to trend, with early glimpses of action figures for Superman, Hawkgirl, and Green Lantern showing up in retail inventory systems. And unlike Marvel, which often waits until 2-3 months before release to go full throttle, Warner Brothers is starting early. All of this is months ahead of the July 2025 release. They want Superman to feel unavoidable, not just as a film, but as a symbol. One that reminds audiences what it felt like when seeing a superhero used to mean something. Even more clever, the merch strategy isn't leaning on violence or dark themes. The shirts, the posters, the toys, they're all designed to feel clean, noble, and hopeful. This isn't Snyder's Superman. This is the version you can put on your kid's lunchbox and feel good about. And here's the twist. Early test audiences reportedly responded positively to the emotional tone of the footage. The marketing team isn't just showing action, they're showing character. They want the world to fall in love with Clark Kent again before they ever see him throw a punch. At this scale, it's not just a campaign. It's a worldwide character rehabilitation effort, defining Superman in the minds of casual viewers, comic fans, and global audiences who may not have cared about the Man of Steel since Christopher Reeve.
I think Superman knows that he misses something about people. He wants to miss the bad stuff. He wants to see the good stuff. I think he feels like if you focus too much on the bad stuff, which he tends to think Lois does, being a journalist and having to ask.
According to projections from Box Office Theory and The Quorum, the film is on track to pull in anywhere between $110 million to $175 million in its opening weekend domestically. Let that sink in. That puts it well above the opening numbers for The Flash, $55 million. Shazam, Fury of the Gods, $30 million, and even Black Adam, $67 million. In fact, it could more than double the launch of most recent DC films, signaling a complete turnaround for a studio that's struggled with financial hits over the past 3 years. But here's the part that should make Marvel sweat. If the higher-end projection hits around $175 million, that would put Superman toe-to-toe with MCU heavyweights, like Thor Ragnarok, $122 million, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, $187 million, and even Captain Marvel, $153 million. And remember, this is a reboot, a film with no Robert Downey Jr. cameo, no Chris Hemsworth, no Tom Holland, no nostalgia bait from the Infinity Saga. Just a brand new Superman played by David Corenswet in a universe that's being rebuilt from scratch. If this film opens that big, it sends a message loud and clear audiences are ready to move on from the old guard. Now let's talk global numbers. With an international marketing push already in full motion, analysts believe Superman could cross the 700-800 million range worldwide within the first few weeks. That's the studio's break-even point. When factoring in its $225 million production budget and $200 million marketing cost, but insiders say the real goal isn't just profitability, it's symbolic dominance. What Gunn and Warner Brothers really want is to hit the $1 billion milestone, the pop culture benchmark that only a handful of superhero films have ever reached. For reference, Man of Steel ended its global run at $668 million. Batman v Superman pulled in $873 million. Aquaman, DC's highest-grossing solo film, surprised everyone with $1.1 billion. If Superman clears the billion-dollar line, it would become the biggest solo character launch in DC history and solidify the James Gunn era as a force to be reckoned with. It would also flip the power balance between DC and Marvel heading into 2026. Let's not forget, Marvel has been feeling the pressure. Films like The Marvels and Quantumania barely cracked $500 million globally, while Disney Plus fatigue and multiverse confusion have left general audiences asking for something new, something cleaner, something inspiring. Superman is being positioned to answer that demand, and the numbers so far say audiences are ready to show up. While the MCU still has massive loyalty, there's no denying a creeping sense of fatigue and a growing demand for simpler, more emotionally grounded stories. Enter Gunn's Superman, a hopeful reboot that delivers the exact opposite of Marvel's current complexity. Fewer multiverse headaches, more moral clarity, less cameo stuffing, more heart. If Superman connects with general audiences in the way early marketing is suggesting, it could force Marvel Studios to reevaluate how it approaches Phase 6. Instead of chasing bigger crossovers, they might need to return to basics: grounded heroes, standalone arcs, and character-first storytelling. In other words, Gunn's Superman might end up saving not just the DCU, but also recalibrating what superhero cinema is supposed to be. What makes this more than just another superhero launch is how strategic it all feels. Gunn knows the stakes, DC knows the stakes, and the studio is making every move count. They're positioning Superman as the emotional compass of their universe. They're soft-launching supporting heroes like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, who will spin off into future projects. They're not leaning on spectacle alone, they're building a character-driven mythos. It's a blueprint that feels eerily familiar, like what Marvel did in 2008 with Iron Man. Only now, the roles have reversed. DC is the scrappy underdog with a clear vision. Marvel is the bloated juggernaut at risk of spinning out. The billion-dollar question, will it work? That's the real suspense here. If Superman clears $1 billion, James Gunn becomes the most powerful figure in modern superhero storytelling, not just creatively, but commercially. His tone, his approach, and his structure will become the new gold standard. Other studios will chase the Gunn formula the same way they once chased the Feige formula. Marvel will be forced to pivot faster. And the streaming-first mindset many studios adopted post-pandemic will be replaced with theatrical-first storytelling that puts character and spectacle back on the big screen. But if it misses? If Superman falls short of expectations, Warner Brothers could be left rethinking the entire DCU relaunch, and the MCU may regain its crown by default. There's also the emotional weight of the character itself. Superman isn't just another hero, he's the hero, the original, the icon. And for over a decade, audiences have seen him buried under grim aesthetics, weighed down by brooding plot lines, and sidelined in his own franchise. Gunn is trying to change that. He wants to bring Superman back to the big screen, not as a savior with a god complex, but as a person, someone real, someone flawed, someone hopeful. But will general audiences respond to that? Will a new actor, David Corenswet, who's relatively unknown to mainstream viewers, be enough to carry that legacy? Can this version of Superman connect with kids who grew up on Iron Man and Spider-Man? Will adults who checked out of superhero movies years ago give this one a shot? And then there's the competition. Fantastic Four releases just 2 weeks after Superman. Marvel isn't going to take this lying down. They've got their own billion-dollar legacy to protect. If Superman stumbles even slightly, and Fantastic Four overperforms, the momentum shifts right back to Marvel no matter how good Gunn's film is. Superman won't just be a hit, it'll be a cultural reset. The kind of film that redefines expectations, reshapes franchises, and reminds studios that the power of myth is still alive in 2025. But if he misses, if audiences don't connect or the film underperforms even slightly, the whole reboot plan starts to wobble. Doubt creeps in, investors start asking questions. And worst of all, the old superhero fatigue narrative gains more ground. So, yes, $1 billion is the number, but what it really represents is confidence.